As the candidates crisscross the battleground states in the campaign's final weeks, more than 12 million ballots have already been cast in dozens of states across the country, the majority of them by Democrats. That includes in the crucial battleground state of Nevada, where early voting began today. Later tonight, former President Barack Obama will rally in Las Vegas to encourage voters to turn out and cast their vote for the Harris-Walz ticket. Joining me now from Las Vegas is California Congressman Robert Garcia, a national co-chair of the Harris-Walz campaign. Congressman Garcia, as always, thank you very much for coming to the Saturday show. It seems like every time I talk to you, you're in Nevada. So tell me, you've been there so much. What are you hearing from folks on the ground?
This is a really exciting day for the Nevada team. This is the first day of early voting in this critical state that is a must-win for our campaign. Vice President Harris, Governor Walz, the whole team is fired up. We are seeing such energy on the ground, not just today, but over the last few weeks, all focus on making sure that Kamala Harris wins the state. And what's really critical about us here is it's really important that we're turning out the Latino vote. And so we've been going out, meeting folks in taco shops, restaurants, their neighborhoods, all sorts of places, talking to the Latino community in English, in Spanish, churning out the vote. That's why I'm here. That's why so many of us are here through this weekend to make sure that this early vote is coming in for Kamala Harris. And from what we're seeing at these early voting sites, I am really excited about what's going to happen on Election Day when they call this state. We are going to win Nevada.
Well, let's talk more about Latino voters, and particularly that Univision town hall with Latino voters that Donald Trump did. And I just want to play, here is this was in response to a question from a man who said to Donald Trump that he wanted Donald Trump to earn his vote because he was disturbed by a lot of things, including what happened on January 6th. Watch this, and we'll talk about it on the other side.
Nothing done wrong at all. Nothing done wrong. And action was taken, strong action. Ashley Babbitt was killed. Nobody was killed. There were no guns down there. We didn't have guns. The others had guns, but we didn't have guns. And when I say we, these are people that walked down. This was a tiny percentage of the overall, which nobody sees and nobody shows. But that was a day of love.
And Congressman, later reporting shows that gentleman who asked the question said that Donald Trump did not earn his vote. What's been the reaction, if any, that you've heard to that Univision town hall that Donald Trump put on?
Oh, I mean, everyone I've talked to thought it was completely bizarre. A lot of folks saw that. A lot of folks watch obviously, Univision, and his answers were completely unacceptable to the community, and certainly to somehow defend what happened on January 6th. And certainly the person that asked the question, we all heard his reaction, of course, like you mentioned afterwards. There is no connection with the Latino community and Donald Trump. This is the same person that calls our community criminals, that we're somehow poisoning the blood of this country. He is no friend of us, wanting to do mass deportations and bring horrific policies against migrants, against our community. So that's going to take us all backwards. And so we're talking to Latino voters about the future. Kamala Harris knows this community. She has great plans for homeownership, for small businesses, for those that are working in the trades. And I'll say, Jonathan, I was with about 25 undecided Latinos last night who were construction workers. I went to go speak to them because they weren't sure where they were going. We left that gathering with all of them fired up to vote for Kamala Harris because they learned her plans, they understood what she's doing, and that's what we're doing with every single voter, is we're talking to them one-on-one and making sure they cast their ballots for Kamala Harris.
So then, Congressman, is there one particular issue that gets those voters fired up, or is it a basket of issues that gets them fired up? What are the issues that voters are saying are important to them that is then driving them to say, at least you, that they're going to cast a vote for the vice president?
I mean, I think there's all voters, and I think especially Latino voters in places like Nevada and Arizona, are really talking about ensuring that working class people have access to good jobs. They want to make sure that whether they're in construction, whether they're in the trades, that there's going to be good work for them to do, that their work is going to be respected, that they have the right to join and be a part of their union. And they understand that Donald Trump is a danger to all of that, that Project 2025 is a danger to all of that. And so we're hearing a lot about that work. And then the other piece that we're hearing a lot about is these same folks are also saying, look, my mom is still undocumented. My sister is still trying to get access to have her pathway to citizenship one day. And so they understand that Kamala Harris has a fair approach, not just to securing the border and making sure we have a safe border, but to making sure that people here have the dignity in earning citizenship and earning a guest worker program. Kamala Harris understands both of those things. And those are the two things that I'm hearing the most from voters here on the ground, particularly the Latino community here in Nevada.
You know, one of the big things in Project 2025 is that plank for mass deportation. It is something that Donald Trump regularly talks about from his campaign rallies. It's something that his supporters say that they support. And there is polling out there that shows that actually there are a lot of people who actually kind of don't think that there's a problem with that. How concerned are the voters you're talking to about the promise of mass deportations on day one if Donald Trump wins in November?
I think, first of all, there's a lot of obviously misinformation out in the media, and I think it's really shameful to see so many folks kind of buying into that. But when you talk to average folks, working class folks, the Latino community, they are completely against that. And they understand that Donald Trump and the extreme MAGA right wants to hurt our community, wants to deport the community, wants to separate families. And so that's resonating with folks here in Nevada. It's resonating with folks here in Arizona in the Southwest. And we're going to continue to push that message. The reality is, as a Californian, Kamala Harris is from my home state. She understands the Latino community. She understands the West. And so I've been honestly very heartened just being out here this weekend and seeing this early vote, how fired up people are. And quite honestly, there's not much of a Donald Trump operation out here. This campaign has 14 offices. There's 14 offices across this state. I think the Trump campaign might have 2. There are thousands and thousands of volunteers, 150, 200 staffers. So there's a real operation here that's churning out this early vote. And early vote is how we win here in Pennsylvania, in Georgia, and North Carolina. And so if you have a ballot, go vote. Cast your votes. Let's get them in.
Real fast. So on what you just said about the Trump operation, such as it is, are you seeing any signs of folks door knocking, lawn signs, anything like that on behalf of Donald Trump in Nevada since you've been out there?
Yeah, you do see there are some signs. There are some folks that are obviously supporting Donald Trump. There's no question. But from a grassroots perspective, from a volunteer perspective, and certainly from offices, there is just no comparison in the two operations. The Democrats and certainly the Harris campaign, they have a real Nevada operation, and that is being multiplied across the country. Of course, what Donald Trump has is he has his billionaire friends. He has the conservative media that at this point is just essentially lying and giving mistruths to the community, and a lot of disinformation. And so that we're focused on the truth and mobilizing folks. They're trying to use lies and, quite frankly, fear in turning out their operation. So that's why I'm so hopeful about November. I really believe this country does want to move forward. And like the vice president always says, we are not going back.
California Congressman Robert Garcia coming to us from the ground in Nevada. Thank you very, very much.